Hello, today we will talk about every human defense mechanism. The first human defense mechanism is rationalization. The rationalization mechanism is a psychological term used to describe the process by which people reconcile their actions, thoughts, and beliefs in a way that makes them appear logical, rational, and reasonable, even though they may be driven by a large number of factors, including emotions, social pressures, and personal motivations. The basic idea behind the rationalization mechanism is that people look for ways to justify their actions or beliefs by finding logical arguments or explanations, even though these arguments may be relatively fictitious or not fully justified. This allows a person to feel more confident in their actions and beliefs and helps to maintain their self-esteem. The rationalization mechanism is often manifested in situations where people are faced with contradictory information, unpleasant actions, or their own mistakes. The next human defense mechanism is displacement. The defense mechanism of displacement or shifting is described in psychology as the transfer of negative or unacceptable emotions, desires, or behaviors from one object to another that is less threatening or acceptable. This defense mechanism allows a person to express their emotions or wishes in a safe or socially acceptable way. The basic idea of the shift mechanism is that emotions or desires that initially are in relation to one object are associated with great anxiety or fear. Instead of expressing these emotions or desires directly, the person shifts them to another object, or person who may be less threatening or more easily tolerated. For example, a person who has a conflict with a boss at work may express their anger and irritation at home by taking it out on a family member or pet. In this case, the conflict at work becomes the initial object, and the family member or pet becomes the object of transfer. The next human defense mechanism is selective. The human defense mechanism called selective perception or selective abstraction is one of the key concepts in psychology. This defense mechanism consists in perceiving only a limited amount of information or a separate fragment of reality, ignoring other details or context. The basic idea of selective defense is that a person chooses and extracts only certain aspects of reality that correspond to his or her internal beliefs, expectations, or desires, while other aspects are ignored or distorted. This allows a person to maintain their mental balance and stability, even in cases where reality is complex or contradictory. For example, a person experiencing severe stress due to a conflict at work may focus only on the positive aspects of their relationships with colleagues or career opportunities, ignoring the negative aspects of the conflict. This helps to maintain mental well-being and reduce stress levels. However, selective perception can also lead to a distortion of reality and the formation of stereotypes or misconceptions. The next human defense mechanism is avoidance. A defense mechanism known as avoidance is a strategy that people use to avoid or reduce unpleasant or frightening situations, events, or feelings. This defense mechanism is used to reduce stress, anxiety, or discomfort associated with certain events or situations. There are several types of avoidance. Situation avoidance. People may avoid specific situations or places that they find scary or unpleasant. For example, a person with social anxiety may avoid large social events or situations where they are forced to interact with strangers. Avoidance of emotions. People may also avoid or suppress unpleasant emotions such as anger, sadness, or fear. They may use different ways, such as distractions or rationalizations, to avoid facing these emotions. Conflict avoidance. People may avoid conflicts or unpleasant situations instead of dealing with them. They may avoid having difficult conversations or situations where unpopular decisions have to be made. The next human defense mechanism is idealization. A defense mechanism known as idealization is a psychological process in which a person tries to see themselves, other people, or circumstances in an extremely positive light, idealizing them as perfect or extremely perfect. This defense mechanism can arise both from real events and from internal experiences. The main features of idealization: hiding negative aspects. A person who uses idealization may ignore or suppress negative traits or behaviors of another person, situation, or even themselves. He or she may imagine these objects as ideal or perfect, not seeing their flaws. Creating an ideal image. A person who uses idealization may create an ideal image of themselves, other people, or even life in general. They may distort reality to present themselves or the world in the best possible light. The next human defense mechanism is compromise. A defense mechanism known as compromise is one of the ways in which a person tries to reduce the conflict or stress that occurs when faced with two or more contradictions or unpleasant choices. In this defense mechanism, a person tries to find a compromise between the contradictions that would suit all parties, or at least help to avoid conflict. The main features of the compromise mechanism: search for an optimal solution. A person using a compromise mechanism tries to find the best solution to a problem or conflict that would satisfy all parties, or at least avoid the most serious consequences. Reducing stress. Compromise can help reduce the stress and tension associated with contradictions or difficult choices. Resolving a conflict or problem through compromise can make the situation less tense and more acceptable to all parties.